It has been believed for most of history that our brains are fixed, that our brains are hardwired, that the genes that we are born with is what we will always possess, something that we don't have control over changing, that the traits and the flaws that we possess are just part of who we are, that the illnesses that we develop throughout our lives is just what we are destined with. And everything about us is fixed because that is just who we are. However, in the last decade, there has been groundbreaking research that our brains are actually changeable. This concept is called neuroplasticity. Neuro meaning brain and plasticity meaning is changeable or moldable. This means that over time, with enough learning and repetition, we can actually rewire our brain function, that we can actually form new neural pathways, that we can fire and wire neurons together in different ways, that we can turn on or turn off certain genes, that we can even alter our physical structure, and also very importantly, that we can change the way that we think and we feel, that we can rewire our subconscious programming and think and feel in new ways that we have never been able to before in the past. We can break free of the bondage that we have to our past and to our traumas. We can heal ourselves physically, mentally, and emotionally. In the past, people never thought that these kinds of things were possible. Scientists didn't even realize that these things were possible because we didn't have the proper imaging and technology to show these things actually happening in real time, such as brain scans, which has been such a powerful tool in proving this phenomenon. The concept of neuroplasticity is truly groundbreaking and something that I am so incredibly passionate about and deeply intrigued and fascinated by, because it is so incredible to see what us humans are capable of. This information is so significant and has the power to change so many people's lives. And that's why I'm making this video today, because although this concept is becoming more and more popular and accepted in the mainstream, still not a lot of people know about it. I first was introduced to this concept when I started reading the book Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. And I cannot express to you how much that book has changed my life and myself for the better. I have the absolute utmost respect and love for Joe Dispenza because the work that he is doing is literally changing people's lives on a mass scale. And it is amazing to watch this happen. If you've watched my videos, then you already know I'm obsessed with that book and I've talked about it many times, so I'm not really gonna get into that in this video, but I will put that book in the description for anyone that wants to learn about this in depth. So, how does neuroplasticity work? Well, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a researcher, but I am going to try my best to explain this in the best way that I know how to, because it is pretty complex, but at the same time, it's also very simple, and you'll see what I mean. So every time we learn something new, we form new connections in the brain, right? So take, for example, when you first learn to drive a car. The first time you get in that car, you have no idea what you're doing. You feel like an alien. It feels very uncomfortable. But over time, as you do it, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, eventually it starts to become hardwired in your brain how to drive. It starts to become automatic. You don't even have to think about it. You have trained your brain to drive a car. And what's really happening in your brain when that happens is that there are certain neural pathways that are being formed, and there are connections that are being made in your brain. And the more you do that thing over and over again, those connections are becoming more and more wired together until it's eventually hardwired in your brain, and you know how to do that thing so well that it's automatic. You don't even have to think about it. And that's how the brain learns to do anything. It has to form new connections. And certain thoughts, feelings, and actions form certain neural pathways in our brain. And the more that we think, feel, and do those things, the more prominent those neural pathways become. For example, if you learn how to be happy, if you learn how to be successful, if you learn how to be healthy, once you know that knowledge, you are already forming new connections in your brain. And the more that you learn that knowledge and the more that you practice that knowledge, those connections become more and more hardwired in your brain. Now, that may seem obvious, right? But it's not so obvious when it comes to mental health issues, when it comes to physical illness, when it comes to things that people think that they can't change with that same type of learning and programming. Once we start thinking a certain thought, for example, I am very successful. I have the life that I want. When that's just a conscious thought and it's not deeply ingrained in your subconscious, just that thought alone isn't going to do much, right? But if you consciously think that thought consistently over time, it starts to enter the subconscious. And when you're able to feel those emotions of being happy and successful and confident and healthy, or whatever you desire, when you're able to put yourself in that state of feeling those elevated emotions, when you begin to feel those elevated emotions before the experience may have even happened, you start to literally change your brain chemistry. The body doesn't know what is actually happening in our physical reality versus mentally. So therefore, the body responds to match these positive chemicals in the brain. And over time, when you are consistently mentally rehearsing something and consistently getting to that elevated emotional state, you start to change your brain and your body, and you start to change the way that you think and feel, and you can even change yourself on a physical level as well. If this video is the first time that you're hearing about this concept, it may go right through you and you might not believe it at all. It may sound crazy, but the studies and the testimonials prove themselves. So as I was talking about Joe Dispenza's teachings before, Joe Dispenza is a groundbreaking neuroscientist. And through his teachings and his in-person workshops, he has helped people who were blind to see again, who were deaf to hear again, who were paralyzed to walk again, who had cancer to no longer have cancer, and many other miraculous things. He has helped people go from the worst parts of their life to living their absolute best life, to attaining their #1 goal in life. He has helped people do incredible things. And that's why I have so much faith in this concept, because he is proving this to be true every day. And so are probably many other neuroscientists, but I'm just very familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza's teachings. Here are some examples of studies that prove neuroplasticity. In this finger muscle control group experiment, there were 2 groups of people. The first group, the subjects who were asked to do a finger exercise against the resistance of a spring over the course of 4 weeks for an hour a day, showed a 30% increase in muscle strength. Of course, right? That makes sense. But group 2 mentally practiced the same activity for the same length of time and demonstrated a 22% increase in muscle strength without any physical activity. Once again, the research speaks for itself. That is incredible. So that's just one example, one of many examples. Another study showed the hippocampus regrowth after therapy. The hippocampus is smaller in those with depression and anxiety, and after 8 weeks of therapy, it was shown that the hippocampus enlarged in the patients. I know that a lot of people who talk about neuroplasticity and research it may have a lot of different thoughts about it, but something that I think is so profound that we can learn from this is how powerful our thoughts really are, right? So it's become very popular in the last few years that our thoughts really do create our reality. However, the beliefs that I have kind of developed from studying neuroplasticity is truly realizing the science behind the concept of the law of attraction. Because yes, I am a very spiritual person, but I also see things in a very logical sense as well. And I love how neuroplasticity really shows us the science of how our thoughts affect the way that we feel and the way that we act, and how our thoughts can affect ourselves on a physical level and how our thoughts can affect our lives. It's so clear that we are literally going through a transformation on this planet. People are healing, people are transforming. These kinds of topics were never discussed on a mass scale in the past, such as mental health, healing, self-care, rewiring our brain, our subconscious programming, the law of attraction. Things like this were never mainstream in the past, and now suddenly so many people are aware of this, and so many people are transforming themselves and their lives and taking their healing into their hands. So many people are becoming self-healers, whereas before we thought we were just stuck the way that we were. We thought we were just stuck with our struggles and stuck with our issues, and we thought that we had to rely on medications or doctors or therapists or whatever to be happy, to be better, to heal, to change. And now people are taking their healing into their own hands, and people are truly making incredible changes, and This is just such a profound thing to witness in the world. This is such an amazing time to be alive. I love seeing this happen. There's so much to be said about this, and I could honestly make a whole series about this, and I think I will when I do even more research on it and gain an even better understanding of it. I can't get over how incredible this information is. It actually makes me emotional. I'm actually gonna put this video in the description. It's a Joe Dispenza video, and I get emotional when I watch it. He basically explains the foundation of his research and neuroscience and how the power of meditation can heal us, and that actually ties into a lot of this. Maybe that'll be part 2 of this series, I'm not sure, we'll see. But yeah, I think I'm gonna put that video in the description just because I think it's such a great video. But anyways, I'm kind of rambling at this point, so I'm gonna move on. But thank you so very much for watching. And if it added any value to you, then feel free to give it a like, or give it a comment, or share it with anyone that you feel could benefit from it, because that really helps support me in the YouTube algorithm, and it also helps this video to reach others who need to hear it. And subscribe to my channel if you are also on a path of healing and transformation and personally developing yourself, because that is all this channel is about. And I will always continue to bring more awareness to these topics and bring more insight from my own experience to help other people who are going through the same things. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope I see you in my next video.